Good morning. It's 25 minutes to the hour of 8 a.m. I'm glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. It's time now for the Kickstarter discussion, and we are going to be talking about commercialized politics, or should I say commercialization of politics. Of late, we've had discussions around how much money can go into politics, given the fact that over the last 20 years, there's been billions, and I think trillions of shillings that has been sunk into the political landscape to, first of all, secure votes, but most importantly, to run what the wheel of politics and to ensure that it is on track. But questions are beginning to arise. What is the cost of politics and how much money should politicians be able to use? The discussion was triggered at the retreat of cabinet ministers at the Chankwanzi Leadership Institute, and the question came up whether caps should be introduced or not, and it was agreed that a new law is going to have to be morphed to allow for a cap where no amount of money that exceeds it should be seen to be pumped into politics, either by an individual or a political organization. We are going to be discussing the merits of that particular dispensation and whether it can actually work. But what we do know right now is that politics in Uganda appears to be the most lucrative sector, so to speak. So much so that every person seeks to become a politician in order to seemingly be able to put their hands where the money is. With me in studio, I have the deputy spokesperson of the Opposition National Unity Platform, NUP, that is Alex Waiswapa-Fumbiro. I also have with me the deputy RCC Nakawa, Sheikh Kasim Kamgisha. These two understand the things far more than we do, and of course we shall be hearing their perspective. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Good morning. I'm thrilled by the hoodwinking you have just given.
I haven't hoodwinked anybody.
To the citizenry by telling them that in politics there's money. In fact, in politics, the reality is that there's no money. If you take stock of many members of parliament who made their way to parliament with a great financial stance, many of them have become
less rich.
Not even less rich. They have been their wealth has been depleted because the expenditure, apart from the electoral financing, if you're going to look at the expenditure of leaders without any side, because of the lack of service delivery by the system. A leader is no matter the amount of money that they receive. I don't want to be part of those who think that their huge salaries. Yes, their huge salaries have created an invitation by the public to go and find a way there because of the remuneration. However, the ground and the remuneration is not in tandem with the service.
Those are two variables you're dealing with, Mr. Mfumbira. The fact that
there is no money
might not be sufficient.
Probably talk about the corruption.
Wealth. Listen, those are two variables. The money might not be sufficient to cause wealth accumulation as a single, let me see, as a target. However, it doesn't negate the fact that trillions of shillings are into the political jargon, the juggernaut of politics, and that is something we cannot negate or rather dismiss. The amount of money in politics is enormous. Whether it leads to wealth accumulation for some and not for others is a different question altogether. But allow me...
we will dispel.
Allow me bring in Kasim Kamgisha, who seems to be rubbed. I don't know whether the wrong way or not, but that gentleman says there isn't anything there.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, viewers. Politics must go with economics. That is why at universities world over, you are offered politics, or political science and economics, because you have to manage resources. So the constant is, when people assume that echelon of power they are near resources. That's a constant.
Yeah.
The variables is whether everybody who assumes that position accumulates or dips their hands in the coffers. But by and large, African politics and politicians' assumption is when you are there, you are near riches, and possibilities are quite high, and that's why people overspend to get there.
In the hope
of
that they will make
corruption.
of dipping their fingers.
That's different. That is corruption.
In the coffers.
You're a lawyer.
Yes, please.
What is the current legal framework around money in politics? We can technically call it political financing or resource mobilization.
I will expound this to a wider. First of all, in Uganda, we have a challenge with the political parties' financing system. They are all financed by, most of them, or the active ones, are supposed to be financed by government. Those who have made it who have made membership to Parliament.
To Parliament, yeah.
Those are funded through the constituency system of the numbers of members you've brought in. A calculation, I think, of 40 million shillings, according to the MPs per annum, are given opportunity to earn from the representation of the members of Parliament attached to their political parties. And campaign fundraising is also very limited. Even the parties themselves on how far they can go into resource mobilization is also, you cannot receive money more than 100 million shillings as a political party from outside fundraisers. And yet our local fundraising here, our people are, first of all, they are not deep-rooted in the political ideology of financing the candidates. It is rather the candidate to finance his own campaign. You're not driven from the ideology. So most of the financing of these political parties that have representation in Parliament comes from that fund, which also is determined by the numerical strength of what you have there. Now, the legal framework, I think we have so much in every challenge we have encountered as a country, thought about looking at the laws, looking at this, but let us begin with the moral concept. Let's begin from our inward look on how money is realized and where does these monies come from. From the setting that they put up the politics. The members of Parliament, I think it was this is the 11th Parliament, I think it was the 9th Parliament. They passed a law in 2014, I think it was the 10th Parliament, in 2014 to the election of 2016. In 2015, actually, they passed a law, and a member of Parliament, the nomination fees were lifted from 200,000 shillings to 3 million shillings. The presidency was lifted from 2 million shillings to 20 million shillings. Now, from that onset, in an economy like ours, if you start by seeking 3 million shillings from a candidate desirous of being a leader of a particular jurisdiction, you're already creating a challenge for the candidate, but also for the people, the electorate, who will have to coincide with one who has capability to have that money. Many political parties have been stopped from having candidates because of lack of nomination fees. Candidates who would have even made it, because in Uganda the difference is that the financing of our political parties is not entirely on the membership, because it would have been easier if you have 10 million members and each of the 10 million can bring 1,000, that would be 10 billion.
All right.
But the type and the system here cannot even allow growth of a political party economically. They stifle the way they will bring in all types of arms to stop your financial independence into the election period will amaze you. You look at what happened to the National Unity Platform in just the last run-up election. Towards our nomination for members of parliament, our offices were raided.
All right. That
money stolen simply because we had done a fundraising of 10,000 Mudaku Muda, where the citizenry themselves were supposed to propel the campaign. All
right. We shall delve a little bit deeper into how some political parties have been able to galvanize resources.
So it's not the law, it is the will of the leadership.
We shall be, of course, let's welcome Captain Francis Babu on board. Many thanks for joining us. He is a very seasoned politician and maybe understands quite fully how money either works well for politics or doesn't. That is something we shall be hearing from you. But allow me ask Kasim Kamgisha, and this one will go down to the fact that you are a member of the National Resistance Movement.
I serve the state.
You serve the state. Yes. Okay, my apologies for that. I was going to ask a question that is down to how the National Resistance Movement deals with money in its political campaigns. But as one who serves the state, you have the ability to observe on a national basis when it comes to the state using money in politics vis-a-vis opposition parties or any other actor doing the same. Do you see fairness at play? Do you see a level playing field? Or there is one party that either uses money to, like Mr. Mfumero claims, to stifle others?
You see, Chris, all of this goes back to what you understand by commercialization of politics. If you are looking at money in politics construed to bribery, that becomes a quite different thing. But if you broaden it to for example, the new domain of media campaigning, the domain of lobbyists in campaigns, the dominion of professional advertisements, in
political campaign and ads.
All that sinks down into commerce or money in politics, and there is no limit on any political party in Uganda, actually in the world, on how much you have to sink into your media management, how much you have to sink into your professionals who have to sell your name out, how much you have to sink into your lobbyists who have to really take you onto international platforms, and all that is commercialization of politics. Well, what normally comes into our minds as Ugandans is money to facilitate a vote into the box. And to me, that is the end part of commercialization of politics, which is actually, lucky enough, Waiswa is a lawyer, which is prohibited within our laws. I think Section 68 of the PIA, Parliamentary Elections Act, criminalizes bribery into elections. So, across the board.
And the ruling of the Supreme Court.
I think we have a member of parliament who in 2011 succeeded on that ground. I think Mwanga Chivumbi and Shikurukunyu. So going back to the broader picture, every political party has been seen in Uganda to sink money into those forums. We have seen NRM doing very big banners. We have seen NUP having And actually, they have spiced it.
Flamboyant.
Yes, they have spiced it, that the TikTok, everything. So I think it is, in my view, it is a level of the playground, at a level of those aspects. And of course, me, I just followed our rules. And I followed them on why they wouldn't think about what impact other platforms would have in electioneering, especially media. But I would still say it was 2005 when you hardly had more than
social media revolution.
TV stations. Social media was not all that really common around. And so what we have to agree is all political parties have got a leveled playground, but we have to revise our rules so that we can have a catch on how much I should sink into my media campaigning, how much I should sink into my lobbyists within and without Uganda, and of course how many professionals I should have on board to ensure that I'm popular here and there, and this goes back, of course, to not the generation of the parliamentarians we have, because then you'll be touching into what they have benefited from. It comes into the new crop of leadership. Yes, the new crop of leadership who will take the mantle of our country in the future. That what should we look at? We should look at ABC in terms of commercialism and politics. But by and large, Uganda is not isolated. Look at how much, for example, between the date when Biden endorsed Kamala Harris up to today, I was reading $46 million have been raised in a spell of 2 to 3 days. All that is going into financing the campaign of the Democrats. When you look at
yes, I'm glad you bring in a story, but of course we shall be going into that a little later, whether we have our own campaign parameters that allow, for example, if somebody is to step out, where do those funds go, as the dilemma is right now for the Biden and the Biden campaign. But allow me drink from the cup of wisdom that is Captain Francis Babu. You've been around for a very long time in the political superstructure in the country, and politics pretty much is a subset and should be it's at the forefront of the economy. We cannot even begin to assume that we cannot use money. How has money been used in politics in this country, from your perspective?
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers. I was late because of corruption having started. Everybody wants to go to office before 8 o'clock. So all the roads are full of people going to work. Fighting corruption is good, because everybody goes to work on time.
Okay.
You see, that's the beginning. Yeah. Why are you people worried? We have adopted capitalism. Capitalism goes all the way to democracy and eventually goes all the way to the people who are standing for election. So it's the game of capitalism. It's a game of money. Until you can find out what is the nuisance in commercialization of politics. These guys are talking like lecturers in Makerere University. We are talking about the nuisance that's created by money in politics. We're not talking about the good things that are there, the proportions on how you divide the money, and so that one is nothing. We are talking about the nuisance that occurs in elections with money. Let's make it very simple. Even the word commercialization, put it on the side. The word bribery, put it on the side. Let's say, what is the nuisance created by money in elections? If you can answer that question, then you have the answer.
Help us start that process.
Good. That's the point we've got to talk about. Where does one get money, an individual, to go and campaign? You use your own money. You get money maybe from your party, from your party. You get money from donors.
A few friends. You get money from those who want to scratch your back, and you will scratch your back when you get into office. Are you with me? Do you know what scratching your back means? I do you now, you do me next. So it is something that we've got to talk about. You have adopted the system from the West, which is driven by money.
Even your democracy is driven by money. Everything you talk is money. How do we now think about ourselves as a poor country, trying to get into a system that is not ours? It did not come from here. It came from some source. Yeah. And then somebody quotes for you a few minutes ago, 46 million in 2 days, you know. It is part of their Democratic Party. No, 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 no. Don't copy other people. How are we, as Ugandan, who are trying to get into a system that we have copied from somewhere and where money is the answer? Now, these are very important issues. What are the nuisance people are worried about? It is not the logistics money which you people are talking about, you know, posters, paying the fees for. No, we are talking about money which is given to change the idea of a voter so that he doesn't vote for you, for the other person, but votes for you. And that money is used to attract them and cause confusion in some cases. That is the money we are talking about. We're not talking about your logistics. We know everybody has to have logistics, to have posters, and to talk on television, you know, to have transport. That is logistics. That's not the money we're talking about. We are talking about the dirty money used in politics. And that means the first point that should come to your mind, is this politics only for the rich? Will the average good leader be able to compete with the rich? The rich could be, and I think Socrates said it in many years ago, that democracy will fail when the negative forces get into democracy and uses money to get into power. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the good things, a good picture of my friend Waiswa. No, 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 no. We are talking about the nasty character. Me and Waiswa, we are at a certain level. But imagine a guy who has accumulated corrupt money coming to compete with us. How do we compete with that person? He uses money and everybody, and after the election, they say, but you don't come back to see us. He says, I bought you last time. When I come this time, I'll also buy you again. That's what we're talking about. So, when we talk about commercialization, we are not talking about the logistics. Please remove the logistics. Let's talk about this. And then the next question, can our country afford it? If we were to be level, like my friend said, we have got a level ground, can we afford it? And I think that's very important. Our economy, can we afford the system we have adopted for our elections? After we finish that, then you go and say, wait, why are people complaining? Why are there people complaining? Oh, there's commercial. Where do they get that point from? We go to foreigners, we ask them for money. When you ask money for foreigners, what do you expect him to give you the money for? If you are a Ugandan, and I am a foreigner from somewhere, and I give you my money, how do I get my money back from you? This is where we have to be very careful. If foreigners finance our elections, the leaders that come out will work for that foreigner.
That is right.
Is that point? Very clear? Okay. So we don't want foreign money to come into our elections. If you do, that means you're selling your country. Who was that chap who sang a song that we are selling Africa and all that? Now, from that point of view, you go to the next point. Businessmen, monopolies that have got money. When they give you their money, what do they expect from you? If I give you money, I'm a contractor, and you become the Minister of Works, what do I expect from you? So these are the nuisance we are talking about. These are the areas we must look at very carefully. And after let's assume I use my own money. I have managed to make money somewhere, therefore I use it. How do I get it back? An individual. So where is that word you normally use nowadays? You use the word corruption very often, don't you? So when I get into the leadership, I'll first pay myself for what money I have used. So the whole thing is dishonesty. Immediately you have the word dishonesty, you're into the playing field of corruption.
You must be able to accept my dilemma right now.
Go ahead.
Because in the process of wanting to understand one thing, and this is particularly for countries like Uganda, you begin to get to the reality that you first have to deal with another thing in order for you to manage what you want to manage. For example, when you say that the money that matters, though, that the money we should be actually be pointing our fingers at is the one that tilts the mind of the voter. For example, the money that purchases the soap that is given to this person in the rural areas to be able to vote for somebody ahead of another who might not necessarily be the better leader is the dirty money. But the conditions of these voters is also something that comes into play.
I was coming to that.
It shifts us from the money that buys the soap or the paraffin or whatever to actually the condition of the voter. And that is something that is done prior to the issuing of this money.
I used the word our country. Can our country afford this? Basically, I was going to the word poverty.
All right. Before you do.
So he will now talk, then I will expound afterwards.
Submit.
I have listened, and first of all, when he said the ground is leveled, definitely that is what he would have said.
Excuse me.
The ground is never leveled. Once you are in a society like ours, the ground will never be leveled. And the question about commercialization of politics has two ends. One, how this money is got. The money we are talking about mostly is corrupt money. Money got from the coffers of government. Money got by those who are close in government. And also the other corrupt tendencies is the working with the big companies to help in financing a certain political party. You know that here in Uganda, they will call all the businessmen to finance the NRM compulsorily.
Is that true?
Yes, it has happened. You've had meetings when they have told the Kwagalana group and all of them, all those who have buildings and they are written in books and published, why have you not given us the money? You remember they were called up to even bring money for the NRM house, which has not taken effect, but that's not where we are. In 2011, Mutebiri, the late former governor, Bank of Uganda, was complaining of having been hoodwinked, and they printed money for electioneering after there had been desire of a supplementary budget. That is on public record. And the country fell into a financial and economic depression simply because a lot of money had been snatched out from our coffers as a nation to the NRM to run a campaign. And that is the commercialization. In Western Uganda, an election, a vote is bought at 50,000. These are facts. Kamugisha here comes from Western Uganda. 50,000.
Is that true?
Is
that true or not?
I come from Kabale municipality.
Yes.
Noop got 2,000 votes. I think he paid 50,000 per vote.
Well, since you know, it is the choice to be pedestrian.
All you meant the 50,000 was paid out to voters. Because when you say vote costs,
you see now,
it means you paid out.
I'm saying buying a vote in Western Uganda, giving the money.
Did you purchase one?
Is saying the money.
Got 2,000.
The money, Captain Babu. I don't want to vulgarize the conversation because the viewers know what I am talking about, and we are.
No, you should also be very clear.
Helping the nation.
No, you should also be very clear when you say a vote costs 50,000. Is that coming from the fact that you dispensed 50,000 Uganda shillings?
No. I'm telling you what. People who are in parliament today, people who have been subjected to elections, what they go through. I can tell you, in that meeting that you are talking about, in that retreat, people gave honest challenges they face to win elections. NRM primaries, one needs to have over 1 billion shillings or 500 million. These are facts. Now you would rather run away from them, or you follow the lead to have the challenge solved. And the challenge why now it is being discussed in the executive is because of the demand. The person who has invested 500 million will have even over you, his leader. The demand they have over General Museveni and the money they need from him to first of all have the monies back in their pockets is because of the expenditure of the campaign, both in the primaries and in the general election. I can tell you, if you don't have 3,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings, you will find it a problem in the villages to get a vote. If you don't have soap, you go and look at all the judicial rulings up to the Supreme Court. They talk about what types of bribery, including government buying sugar to give to the people. In our areas, in the rural areas, the big companies, they connive with the NRA leaders and they give them particular amounts of money to buy elections. We are not talking about money, the money he was talking about printing T-shirts, about this, about that. We are talking about money, first of all, that is being used for a person to make it to parliament, that definitely that legislature will be bogged by that financial fatigue and they will definitely descend on the coffers of the nation. And right. Even in Kololo, when General Museveni was trying to plead amnesty for the parliamentarians, he said,
plead amnesty for parliamentarians.
He said that he knows that the young people have faced challenges in their constituencies of service delivery, but also of how they were elected, and therefore they are trying to find ways of handling that. Commercialization of politics and our democracy here has negated us from the cream of leadership that we would have had, the patriotic leaders that we would have had. Because now any person who has a tune of 500 million shillings can attack a constituency, not from anything. Others go there to get the red passport, to be used for fraud, for other businesses. Somebody dies to enter into parliament, such that he has that diplomatic honorable title, to use it to facilitate other dubious actions that they have planned, because it has been reduced away from issues to what is your financial ability. And the last one, if you look at the international structure of campaign fundraising, I'll give you examples. In India, they have been having electoral bonds, and this works to the particular time of elections. You get an electoral bond, you buy an electoral bond as a political party, and these electoral bonds you have bought, starting from the ranges of the monies you have decided, will only be a facilitation of a campaign time for that purpose. Therefore, if you have more, in the US, he was talking about the US. In the US, they don't bring cash. It is, they follow the thread of the fundraising. Today, I think the Republicans are in a tune of 331 million US dollars, vis-a-vis, but you also look at where they are the other side, vis-a-vis 246. But how does this money come up? This money comes from the electorate.
That is right.
Yes, it comes from the electorate, and they have parameters of following up this person fundraising. What is their end game? He has spoken about foreign powers. In 2014, I think, in 2014, 2013, Andrew Mwenda is on public record having accepted that he had a tune of 500, he had mobilized for Genome 7, a tune of 500,000 US dollars for his campaign from his sources abroad. Not only that, in the matter where a Chinese was convicted in court in the US, the conviction was that our government here, Genome 7 and the Honorable Sam Kutesa, had got over 500,000 US dollars or $1 million US dollars to the NRA for campaign financing. Now, it is true, when foreigners fund interests of political parties here, and you have power. You see, if you are saying in China, today every business is nearly in China, so I wanted to agree with Captain Babu that it is true. That is foreign money can easily take decisions of a country being, like he said, of that person who sang that song, being sold.
I am itching to hear the poverty perspective, but before I go to Captain Francis Babu, let me ask Kasim Kamugisha, in light of what appears to be a whole lot of challenges when it comes to money and how it's used, where it comes from, to whom it goes, and to what the consequences of that particular, back and forth is to the political body or the country as such. What safeguards are there, for example, to ensure, first and foremost, that whoever donates, whoever gives, whoever extends, whichever word you want to use, is, like he says, the end game as the state? Why is Chris Higenyi donating 100 million Uganda shillings to Waisom Fumbiro? Does he want Waisom Fumbiro to become what he wants and then, get to repay back in a way? This particular law, as being suggested by government, does it seek to attend to each and every aspect so that we are clear on who and what amount of monies that can come into the system?
I think the people who proposed and enacted the Parliamentary Elections Act 2005, which criminalizes voter bribery, I think had built on a foundation of honesty that every money which shall be coming into a campaign, whether to an individual or to a political party, shall be used honestly to facilitate what we agree on, all of us here, as the what you can't do without in a campaign. So for them, they envisage the fact that voter bribery could only be the evil at the end game. And I think when now it has come to us that there could be other issues related to that, we are now coming up to, in my view, we are coming up now to enact a law as a standalone, because that bribery concept is just a section of the law. But we are now looking at the whole act, which can provide a clear legal framework of how to use money in a campaign. And so I want to agree with my colleagues that if a foreign power, for example, facilitated me and I became whoever I will become, at the end of the day, I might be tempted to serve the interest.
Compelled, not even tempted.
I might be tempted because because we have seen, if I took his example of the case in USA, I have seen the president and disagree with the USA on some aspects. Therefore, he has taken a stand that if it was true that yes, you financed, if it was true, then he would be dancing to the tunes of the. But he has.
He was a Chinese. I was saying that he was a Chinese who was convicted by the.
Yes, I know the whole case.
Not the US.
But again, playing to the interests of those that fund you doesn't mean a holistic bend towards what they want, but the ability, for example, to either give dividends depending on what you can achieve. For example, in 1 year you can do this for them, then the other year you don't have to completely say, since the Americans funded me, here I am.
The Chinese,
the Chinese for that matter.
So Chris, I was saying that maybe I would be tempted to agree to their demands at my level of positioning. And so the law is now saying that the law could be saying that yes, you have gotten money from a foreign source, but how are you going to use it? Capping the money. For example, then you bring yourself back to a situation at the constituency level, whereby the law was not so specific on what should be part of electioneering on the ground. Because voter bribery, as he said, is quite ambiguous. It's quite ambiguous. It depends on how you urge your case. Depends on how you urge your case. For example, when you go into rural constituencies as of today, fundraising are going on. So when does voter bribery begin? Does it begin at that very end? When you have been, for example, when you have been nominated, or it begins in the whole process of the 5 years where someone has shown interest of becoming a candidate? Then when you go to the constituency down there, you'll find that, for example, Waisa, I'm not so sure, but I'm imagining that if he's to become a candidate in Jinja, he has to begin organizing, for example, sports activities. Are these sports activities part of voter bribery or not? Do they drive to something or not? So I think it is time that we come up with yes, the law, but which has got to be very, very specific so that we protect the vote of this other Mwananchi, so that at the end of the day, when I'm voted into power, I am able to give dividends back to the voter, not to the person who financed me, in terms of agitating for service delivery, in terms of agitating for quality leadership and governance, because you are sure that when you come back for another request for a term, it's not your money which will save you. It is the value of the vote of the person which will save you. So we need the law so that we can curtail serving the interest of the outsiders and serve the interest of Ugandans.
Captain,
yes, sir.
As a nation, hearing the submissions and the need for what appears to be a holistic legislation piece that looks at just about every aspect of how the money will move from what point to the other. The issue is not even poverty. I think it's a case of what has been systematically rolled out over the years, disempowerment of the population.
Yeah, it's several problems that we're facing with. You know, you people have been using the word commercialization. I want to call it corruption.
You've already said that.
Yeah.
Very
and once you talk about corruption, corruption does affect certain things. Corruption affects democracy and political systems. Because corruption is dishonesty and fraudulence. And it also affects the people in the system. Today, going to parliament is better than going to the stock exchange.
Sure.
You know, I go to invest in the stock exchange, I've got my little money. If I use this money to be able to go to parliament, I'll make more money by going to where?
To parliament.
To parliament. So parliament is, actually we should call it the stock exchange. So we go there to make money. Some people don't go there to lead.
Yeah.
They go through there to make. By the way, this is the whole political class. I am sorry, I am not going to talk about parties or whatever it is. A political class of people who are bad-mannered and who have got very bad manners are in the system. I'm not going to talk about individuals, and I don't like it. Now, government of Uganda has let us down because in the constitution there is a part for civic education. To teach our ordinary people how an election, what they should be electing, what they should be doing, you know, and how they should get their leaders. This thing, patriotism you're talking about, people have got it in their hearts. When you have football here between Uganda and some country, you see how many people run to go to Nambole to see that match. It means that we have patriotism in our people, and our people, if they are really given a good civic education, they will understand. So we've been let down there. Now, when I talked about poverty, it is the people who have got money who uses that to certain sections of our society, not all of them. And they do it by bragging and showing of posturing and so on and so forth. Now, if the fundraising, charity, bribery, using all sorts of things happen, one has to be careful. There's a very thin line. The first question is, and I keep telling people this, when there is competition, if you have ever realized it, between different groups, certain traits come out. One of the first traits is to intimidate each other. The other one is to use social media and media as such to fight your opponent. The other one is blackmail. The other one is propaganda. The other one is lies. And the other one is accusing each other of certain things being done. By the way, even stealing of elections, they use money. You cannot steal elections without money. You've got to have money to have people who can help you to steal the election.
By the returning officer.
Correct. And so, the black economy is very powerful here. If I'm in the black economy, I want to have a member of parliament who is going to continue to allow me to do what I want to do. So, what is the nuisance? This is what we're trying to do. And the nuisance will give you the law. Once you've got the nuisance that is happening, then you can cap, you can limit, you can tell the people of the country that we don't allow these kind of things, and you can do this civic education so they can understand. It's a multi-pronged approach to this. It's not as simple as it sounds. The highest amount that has been collected by a politician in the world was Barack Obama. He did not, you know, there are certain conditions that if you get money from your party or from, you are limited. Yeah, there's that. But if you raise money, fundraising, you are not limited. Yes. You can cover as much as possible. So he has had the highest.
Because it has a thread.
It has, yes. Yeah. Now, the other one is, as I talk now, oh, by the way, my great friend Biden stepped down, but one article came out and said he had already collected up to $490 million in his chest. And therefore the question was, would he return it? Or will he give it to the next candidate? So those are things that come out in the United States. And Elon Musk has promised Trump a lot of $45 million every month. Dollars. Now, these are the kind of things. Now, you're talking about, that's capitalism. I am Aaron. I want to maintain my world of digital entrepreneurship. I need protection. Who better to protect me than the next president? Now, these are the kind of things I'm talking about. Now, when you're talking about the nuisance, I think the word nuisance should be understood. What makes the problem? What's the problem? That's the nuisance. What is the problem in financing of elections?
We shall find out.
That's what we need to find.
Let me just go to my colleague, Stephen Mbide, who says he is in Kavule. Kavule, that is at the premises of...
Conversations with... the guests in the studios for now, unless you want to hear from me, Chris.
On what is happening right now at the offices of the National Unity Platform. Let me go straight to the spokesperson, deputy spokesperson that is, of the National Unity Platform, who is with us today here in studio, Mr. Alex Waiswa Mfumbiro. A press conference is expected at 10 a.m. at NUP, and we see heavy deployment of the security forces. What do you intend to tell the country?
You see, this is where you get so restrained with language.
Please.
Speaking of Usuga. They will understand. Don't use English.
That's Captain advising.
The backwardness, the archaic behavior of these gunmen, of these thugs.
Restrain yourself.
You see? The military, the army is a preserve of securing borders. That is common law. That is, any logical person heading this country would understand that. And that is what is killing the fabric of this nation. The idiocracy of those in power, thinking that they have amassed a lot of energy that they will trample down the population. The population will rise up. This population will rise up, and I can tell you, you will not stop it.
You're angry.
And the rising up of this population will be bloody, I can tell you, on this national television.
What do you intend to tell the media today?
And I'm telling the media, and I'm telling those in government, that you are on a time bomb. You will send this country to the gutter with that behavior. You see, leadership is very, very important. And I have told people that thank God that we have Uganda's chosen Bobi Wine. The one given to us by God.
Wow.
The messianic person. Why? His magnanimity at leadership has stopped this nation into plunging into chaos. And many of you, the elite, will not understand what I'm saying. Do you think
you will excuse us for missing out on prophecy?
Yes, I am saying.
No doubt about
and let
that.
me say this again. His Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu's magnanimity of leadership has stopped this country into going into chaos. Should one day this nation wake up, and we are on the other side, I can tell you, the nation might blame us, but we will be vindicated because we will have told you, you are simply sending this country to the gutter. And you will not. This is happening in Kenya.
Gentlemen.
In Kenya,
Chris.
just a minute. In Kenya, excuse me, we are talking about the National Unity Platform. And you, as the RSS of Kampala, you are responsible for that impunity because you had the security.
So now that
a press conference, a press conference, a press conference, a press conference. Wait, a press conference.
I'm interested in knowing what you intend to tell the media in the press conference at 10.
I'm not. This is not the platform for the press conference.
You're the deputy spokesperson of the party.
Yes, and we use different platforms for news. For example, if I gave a news bulletin to NTV, you will not share it with NBS. The other platform is different from this platform, and anyway, it is addressed for the president.
All
the
right.
president is not here.
Let's keep
so
matters that
this
are within
impunity.
This. Let me keep matters to this platform.
Chris,
Yes.
the state
Alex,
is
the
represented
impunity.
here.
Yes.
Alex, let me keep matters to this platform. Let me just take your own words.
Yes.
And depart from the National Unity Platform's press conference.
The impunity.
And
I wanted
that
to end this.
No, Alex, please. You've just said platforms are different. Let's depart and return to the core of our conversation. And the fact that, well, this is a subset of what happens when the politics becomes what it is. But we need to, as, of course, the clock ticks for us here on the show, we need to, first and foremost, ensure that the conversation on money in politics is well understood in what's the way forward now for the country. The law will come up and it will thresh out exactly what particular aspects should be considered. For example, how much money should one be able to donate at an individual level as an organization, but also what is the end game of the person donating. So I'll ask each one of us to not go into anything that might have been triggered by the statements
But
that
Chris,
Alex
I'm the state here. I'm the state here. Anyway, quickly.
Good. I'm glad you've acted like this.
Quickly, if the attitude at the headquarters is Waiswa's attitude here, then there's nothing which can prevent the state from being alert.
Alex,
I was
Mr.
decorum. There's nothing which can prevent the state from being alert. In any case, there is no law in our country which bans police, because it's police which we saw, not the military. We don't have to misinform the nation. There is no law which bars Uganda police from maintaining or presuming that there could be anything and it deploys anywhere in this country to ensure there is law and order. And finally,
that is well understood.
Way forward on our conversation.
Yes.
The country is late. The country has been late in enacting a law which, actually a legal framework, which guides on three things. One, on campaign financing from local sources, national and international sources, but also on how this money should be used, when, at what point, and at what point shouldn't money be used. And finally, the goodwill of Ugandans is very necessary as we combat the vice of commercialization of politics. Whereas my colleagues construed it to voter bribery, for me, I looked at it from a broader perspective, because it begins from when someone raises the interest of contesting, to to when someone wins or loses an election. So that whole process, in my view, should be construed to the laws that should be governing the electoral process of our country.
Captain,
Yes, sir.
would I be off the mark if I suggested that political office, especially the advantages that come with it, including remuneration, stipend, and allowances, be drastically reduced in order to make it less attractive?
Thank you very much. But before we jump to these conclusions, I think we should do a little bit of research normally and come out with experts. There's a tendency to get annoyed about something and then you say some things which you regret later. First and foremost, there is a salary which is given to members of parliament. I was looking at the other day, the people in government, there are about 380,000 members of parliament, including civil servants, so we are talking about administrative costs. You must study it very carefully. Personally, I think even before you go to the salary, reduce the number. Let parliament be about 200,000, 200 people, 150 to 200, depending on how you work it out. That's number one. Number two, reduce the districts. We go back to the 15 districts we had when we got independence.
15 districts.
15. These were the districts we had when we got independence. You can call them sub-regions now.
Those were sub-regions.
Yeah. No, but then they were districts. Then they were districts. Reduce 146 to 15. That's
not realistic, Captain.
It is.
I know.
It is. Don't be told lies. Then you can have counties. A county, you don't need you don't need a government. You need one person to run a county. You need one person to run a Gomborola. We've seen this before. So you don't need. So you need, before you reduce the salary, why don't you reduce the number, and then look at your capacity of being able to finance 200 people in Parliament instead of 557. Then you look at the possibility. You should study this. You should do a benchmarking. You should really sit down and have some people who are really experts to do this. We should not just jump and say, do this, do that. No. Let's go and study it. Look at our country. Look at the population of the country and say, look, if I have 50 million people, I'm just using that as an example, and I had 200 persons per member of parliament, you divide that. It gives you 250. If you did it with 250, it will give you 200 people. So it depends. United States, one House of Representatives represents 500,000 people. Can we make 200? Can we make it 300? So you sit down and you work out the six. After you've finished that, reducing their salary is not the answer. Giving them a salary that is going to make them functional is important. And therefore you sit down and work out a functional salary for a member of parliament and how they work. And within our economy. So you need experts to do that. Now after you've done that, and you've come out with a reason, you'll be able to get a figure that is not using it because people are corrupt. No. Use it because you've studied it and you've got a method of giving them a salary that is within reason. So I think this is where we need to change our attitude. Right. And then don't get annoyed because people are corrupt. People are corrupt, naturally. Jesus was sold for how many pieces?
It doesn't mean because
No, I'm giving you corruption.
Naturally.
That corruption is in the human nature all over the world. The point how you control it.
If you won't be angry at it, then it won't end. No one is going to do something. And that comes down to the will to do the changes
I was coming to that and tell you that there are people who get annoyed. They say all sorts of things about corruption. Yes, corruption is there. How do we work it out? How do we... Because what has happened, you cannot change. What you need to do now is to come out with methods of restricting corruption and how you're going to fight it. Now,
all right, Captain.
Now,
time is not
I want to say something.
Right.
Tomorrow is the 23rd.
It's
a group of people have said they want to demonstrate.
Yeah.
Is that not so?
I was coming to that later in this conversation.
Okay.
And exactly
I was going to come.
I
was coming to this.
Yeah.
Please, and I'm going to ask my brother Waiswa, stop insulting security forces.
All right.
A security force is ordered and he does what he's told. What you should do is talk about the people who order them. But if I'm a policeman and I'm told, do this, I have to do it. If I'm an army man, do this, I have to do it. But these are our brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Captain, for that. Let's go for a break. When we return, this conversation will, of course, go into the aspects that the captain has just spoken about. Who takes the orders and who gives the orders? There was a time when the police officers in this country knew that some of the actions that they take were entirely theirs as individuals. And we also knew that at the end of the day, most of the actions they take are orders that are issued by their seniors. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back for those that went with us into the break. If you are just joining us, welcome on board. We're glad to have all hands on deck. We are discussing money in politics. The good Captain Francis Babu has told us to depart from the word commercialization because it does not actually speak about the realities of how money, of course, oils the wheels of the political landscape. But allow me to return to the gentleman in the studio. On my immediate left is Kasim Kamgisha, the Deputy RCC in Akawa. Of course, on his left is the Deputy Spokesperson of the National Unity Platform, Alex Waiswamufubiro, and of course on the extreme, Captain Francis Babu. The protests that are planned for tomorrow by a group of youth to bring to light the corruption that the nation has been mired in over these years has, of course, gotten the security forces' tentacles up. Even the president spoke about it over the weekend, where he said and actually wondered what these youth are up to. They have cheap food to eat. They can afford, in other words, they can afford to eat a meal. Why would they want to go and disrupt any other person on the streets who is ensuring that the meal reaches their table? Captain, very quickly, not an analogy, but I need to understand the perspective within which the president is working right now. Over the last 2 weeks, he has spoken very emphatically about the need to fight corruption and that he will not leave any stone unturned. And then, in a twist of events, he doesn't want people to protest against corruption. Did you understand the president when he spoke to the nation over the weekend?
No, I understand him very well, and he has had time to do that for some time. But let us, Mr. President, we're in a different era now. The era is people, he has empowered our people to talk. And people in this country are free to talk. A group of young people said they want to talk. The president and a few others who are in power, one of their worries is not these young people talking, is this protest being hijacked by other forces. Now, last night, the president said they will see fire. But time has come for His Excellency to change the approach to this. The average youth, who are the majority in this country, are living in fire. They don't have work, they are very poor, their parents are poor, and there are people we are looking at who are posturing, who are very rich. They have stolen the money of government. They are bragging about it. They are giving each other's presents. They are even standing in front of us. When we loot, we will come and divide with you. These are the kind of things that is annoying everybody, including the young groups. So the young groups are already in fire. So, Mr. President, if you see fire, it will be fire fighting fire. There's no need for this. Last night, on one of the channels, I had Honorable Balam Baruhagari saying that they should have a conversation with this group. And he said they can have it at Kololo. He will have a place there. They can come and they can listen to each other. He's the Minister for
Youth and Children's Affairs.
So he says they should come and listen to them. President had said he will give us a lady called Nakalema to show them how to do what? To protest in a nicer way.
In an acceptable way.
An acceptable way.
Yeah.
Now, this is where we are. Now, is the president talking at them or is he talking to them? Two different things. Mr. President has been talking at us all this time. And I want to say there are people who are not happy with that approach. He should communicate to us, including these young people. To communicate to us is for him to understand us, and we understand him. The president has got a point because he's got intelligence. We don't have intelligence. You know, he's got intelligence. He's the chairman of the National Security Committee.
And he's briefed.
And he's briefed, he gets briefs, and he gets information from different directions that give him this information. And from that information, he will say, if you don't want to do it, he knows. He has got, and I'm sure he has got information that if these young men and women go tomorrow to do this, they will be hijacked. And the thing will become something different. And I think that is where most of the things happening now are coming from. What is happening now is coming from this. And therefore, how do we handle this? And this is where the group, have they understood that the president, has somebody told them that they could do this in a different way? So there's this unfortunate dilemma. Talking at us and talking to us are two different things.
All right.
And therefore, I'd like to end by saying, Honorable Balam really came out very nicely yesterday on TV and said he can go to Kololo and all these people can go there and they have a dialogue or some sort of conversation. The question is, will the young people accept? So these are the kind of...
just not aware, Kololo is under construction.
All right.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But
according they wrote to us.
Yeah.
Allow me
so
to
now,
say that issue.
Now,
Captain,
you know, I listened to the president very carefully that day
very quickly.
when he spoke. And one of the reasons was that he doesn't want this kind of, what they call marching, what they call it? The walking around and with the placards and going to parliament.
Right.
And take, therefore, his minister says, no, you can bring all that stuff to me and I will hand it over to the president and parliament. Now, that is something that they'll have to see how it can work. But I want us to be very careful. Demonstrations can be nice and can be dangerous, depending how it's handled. We must therefore find out, what does Uganda want? I think that's where the question is.
Demonstrations must be handled by security forces. The demonstrators and protesters must be within the law. What is the legal mandate for security in urban areas? And most importantly, in light of what we are talking about, threats to national security could be one of the things the president perhaps is dealing with, or knows, for example.
Our constitution of 1995 provides for freedoms. And one of the freedoms provided in the Constitution is freedom to express your view. And I think one way of expressing your view as a Ugandan is through a demonstration, but with parameters, which must be peaceful and observe the right of other people within the country. And so the proposal of a demonstration constitutionally is legal. However, we have seen demonstrations before this one that have begun peacefully and end up being hijacked And at that point, you have seen rights of other Ugandans being trampled on by the demonstrators. And this, therefore, forms the basis as to why you are seeing, as of now, the alertness of security within the urban centers, for example, Kampala, and other areas in the country. So that as demonstration takes place, for example, there is no trampling on the rights of other Ugandans, because the absolute enjoyment of your right is when you do not tramp on the rights of others. And the deployment of security in Kampala is sanctioned, and they are carrying out their legal mandate to ensure that there is law and order in the country as everybody enjoys their right.
All right. I'm afraid, gentlemen, time is not our best ally. One question to Alex Waisam from Bureau. Are you going to hijack the protests tomorrow or not?
Chagulanyi Robert Sentamu said, and I'm giving the answer, that freedom comes to those who fight, not to those who cry. So stand up and defend your rights.
Captain Francis,
tomorrow, I would urge all Ugandans to do the civic duty. It is acceptable, and you have our support.
Kasim Kamgisha, thank you for making time. That will do it for Morning at NTV. It's been a pleasure having your company. The discussions will continue. Of course, we shall be keeping our tabs on the run-up to the protests tomorrow and whether every party will take heed and stay within the law. I'm Chris Higenyi. It's been a pleasure having your company. Good day.